What's up, guys? Mickle here, and we have some massive developments to go over in the Ripple SEC case. We had an extremely unusual ruling yesterday out of the court, scheduling the first telephonic conference we have seen in a very long time, and it's all around the SEC's assertion of the attorney-client privilege over the Bill Hinman Ethereum free pass emails. Guys, in this video, I'm going to show you why all the different lawyers are speculating on how big this telephonic conference could be, what they are saying about it, and what they are saying the implications for it are going to be on this case going forward. Guys, this is one of the biggest things we have seen in this case in a while now, and you guys are definitely going to want to stick around for this whole thing, because what the lawyers are talking about on Twitter, including John Deaton, Jeremy Hogan, Attorney Fred, and Attorney Bill, is fascinating, and you guys are not going to want to miss it. Guys, if that wasn't enough, we also have another filing to go over out of the SEC. This one is flat out absurd, and I think it's going to get the SEC into some big trouble in the court. I'm going to show you guys what's going on in this filing at the end of the video, but it's going to show you guys that the SEC is sitting in a horrible spot right now in this case, and they are resorting to some extremely bizarre behavior. Like always, guys, if you enjoy content like this, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below. It goes such a long way in helping this channel grow, and it really does mean so much to me. If you guys are ever looking for a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out the link in the description below. With that said though, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So guys, before we get into the massive news in the Ripple SEC case, of course I had to go over this. Today was the 10th birthday of XRP, so happy birthday XRP, and I tweeted out in response to that, battle tested. Guys, it's absolutely amazing that XRP has now been around for 10 years and has zero downtime. It shows what an amazing technological innovation XRP was, and also shows how reliable the blockchain it really is. When I started learning about XRP, this was honestly one of the biggest selling points. XRP has been around forever and always works great. It's always fast, it's always efficient, it's always up and running, and that is huge and absolutely critical to large banks and financial institutions adopting the XRP ledger. They want to see something that's continuously up, something that's reliable, and something they can trust. And how ironic is it that just today we saw that Solana went down again? Guys, this is going to be such a huge problem for the adoption of the Solana blockchain, because it does not prove to be reliable like XRP has been proving over the past 10 years. XRP has such a big head start on proving its reliability, and is gonna go such a long way in showing financial institutions that this is a blockchain that is ready for prime time. Networks that keep going down like Solana are not going to be given the same opportunities, because it just shows that their technology is not up to scale to something like the XRP ledger. I just think this is so important to consider when you guys are looking at new networks to invest in. Guys, a new network may be flashy, it may have some big investors, it might be getting shielded by social media stars, but you need to remember that history matters, consistency matters, and having great specs doesn't mean anything if they're not battle tested like the XRP ledger. Now guys, we have to get into the very unusual ruling out of the court yesterday in this Ripple SEC case. This ruling specifically was about the Bill Hinman Ethereum free pass emails, and the SEC trying to apply the attorney-client privilege to those emails so they do not have to hand them over to Ripple. Now the reason this was such an unusual decision out of the court was because she actually scheduled a telephonic conference to go over this exact issue. This is not something that was expected to happen, and it hasn't happened in a very long time in this case. Yesterday we briefly talked about this ruling, but today all the different lawyers were pitching in and giving their opinions, and now I think I have a really good idea of what's going on here, and it's something you guys are definitely going to want to see. Jeremy Hogan responded to this ruling, and he said, "I think the judge read the SEC's final brief and found it so incredible, shall we say, that she decided to bring them in person to explain the argument and create a clear record, since she knows she's being appealed on her decision. So what Jeremy Hogan says, what he thinks is going on here, is that the SEC has flip-flopped so many times, she is actually bringing them into court to explain what is going on here. Pretty much the SEC is stuck in a tangled web of lies, and Judge Knepper is so sick of listening to them change their argument and 180 on their main points that she's bringing them in and saying, look, what you guys are doing here doesn't make any sense. You need to explain to me what's going on and why you think after I have ruled 5 times now, you still don't have to hand over these documents to Ripple. Now, I fully believe this is going to be a large part of what happens in this telephonic conference, but Attorney Fred and Attorney Bill were actually speculating on something else they believe could happen too. So as of right now, the court has actually only read 10 of the emails involved in the Bill Hinman Ethereum free pass. Both Attorney Fred and Attorney Bill both think it is probable that after the SEC's extreme efforts to prevent handing over these emails, that the court is likely going to want to see them for themselves. This is because the SEC is acting so unusual and refusing to such a high degree to hand over these emails that they are literally proving to the court that these emails are extremely damning. Therefore, both Attorney Fred and Attorney Bill think it could be likely that the court is going to ask them to bring all the emails to the court to this trial so that the judges can go over these documents in an in-camera review. Now, this would be a huge problem for the SEC because we know that the SEC is trying to stretch out this case as long as possible. If the court sees the extremely damning evidence and the extreme corruption going on at the SEC is going to put themselves in a very poor position when it comes to summary judgment. This is going to make it much more likely that they are going to actually want to settle this case, because if they already know that the court has seen all the evidence they need to see to rule on a win for Ripple, then it makes no sense for the SEC to go to distance. They're going to lose all their power over the rest of the crypto industry and going to take a massive loss to Ripple in a case they don't need to lose. So if the court does in fact end up telling the SEC to bring over all the documents so they can do a full in-camera review, this would be a huge win for Ripple and a very good sign for XRP holders going forward. Now, Attorney Fred actually put together a very good tweet thread that I wanted to read you guys because he also goes over a worst case scenario. I want to break that down for you guys and show you why I don't think it's realistic, but there's actually a very good scenario he also puts in here that is also a little more speculative, but one that is also highly probable that I think we need to be paying attention to. Fred said, my thoughts on this unusual hearing setting. First, an in-person hearing allows certain privacy. In courtroom will be on record, but Judge Knepper can also take attorneys back to her office in chambers for off-the-record discussions. That's very interesting. If Judge Knepper wants to try to convince these parties to settle, she can actually bring the parties to a back room and say, hey, I want you guys to settle this case. This is getting absurd. XRP today is not a security. SEC, give up on that. You're going to state that XRP going forward is not a security. But hey, Ripple, you violated the law on 2013 transactions, so you're going to pay a fine on that. I want you guys to decide right now what the compromise is going to be so we can end this thing once and for all. Do I know exactly if that's how it's going to go? No, of course not. But Jeremy Hogan has said in multiple of his videos that this is how cases get decided all the time. So if Judge Knepper is calling these parties in person, then I think it's very likely there will be some discussions of a settlement taking place. Judge Knepper does not want to make the final ruling here, and neither does Judge Torres. This case is a mess. It's much easier if these parties hash out their argument and Judge Knepper can talk to them and say, hey, rather than dragging this thing out another 7 months, this is how I'm going to rule on this, this, and this. So if you guys want to settle, let's get it over with right now. Then Fred goes on to say, nothing prevents her from ruling without a hearing, so why order one? My gut tells me she wants to politely rake the SEC over coals for such a you-know-what show. force the SEC to take a position it cannot waver on later. In chambers, she could also alert Ripple in front of the SEC that the emails are terrible for the SEC. She could also let the SEC know that Torres is highly unlikely to overturn her decision. The danger option for Ripple, and this is the bad or worst case scenario that could happen, is if Judge Netburn allows the SEC to do a do-over, in the sense she forces them to choose once and for all whether Hinman's speech was his personal opinion or on the behalf of the SEC. He says this is unlikely in my opinion and would give the SEC a chance to save face while simultaneously pushing the dagger further into the SEC on the fair notice defense. Now, in terms of this worst case scenario, I think this is highly unlikely, and Fred points this out also. He also points out that if they were allowed to 180, it actually wouldn't make things any better because it would just put them in a position where they then had to say to the court why Ethereum is not a security and XRP is. That's a losing argument for the SEC, so it really doesn't make sense that they would be able to 180 on this in any successful way. Also, it doesn't make any sense for the court to allow them to 180 on this, and John Deaton put this very simply. Judge Netburn ruled that it is settled and Hinman's speech was his personal opinion. It doesn't mean the market didn't consider it as guidance. That's very important. It's very unlikely a judge uses that terminology, then rules otherwise. SEC should be ready for some poignant and tough questions. So this is very important. John Deaton is kind of saying, look, Judge Netburn already said this issue was settled. This is going to go down as Hinman's personal opinion, and the SEC is going to have to hand over these emails. I completely agree with him. It would be kind of a huge waste of time if the court was to then 180 on this position also. It turned this entire case into a mess, and I think that's the last thing the court wants to do. One very interesting that John Deaton points out, he said it's still on the table whether or not the market actually thought it was Bill Hinman's personal opinion. Now, this means that this could still be used in the fair notice defense for Ripple, and we don't necessarily know where this stands right now, but this would be a very interesting topic to be talked about on this telephonic conference. Now, I'm sure you guys are starting to see why this telephonic conference is going to be so interesting. There are some huge things at play here. I actually tweeted out at Fred also because I thought it was really interesting what he was talking about with the settlement. I said, do you think this increases or decreases the chance of a settlement? He said all the lawyers and non-lawyers clearly saw the ridiculousness the SEC went through on this one issue that I think Judge Netburn decided the SEC needs a talking to. But unless she really unloads on the SEC, I don't see the SEC settling until they lose before Torres on the email issue. So it looks like attorney Fred thinks that until the SEC is actually forced to hand over these emails, he doesn't see this thing settling. Now, this could be a lot closer than many of us think. This has already been going on for a while now, and the SEC just got called to the judge's office, so we're gonna have to see what happens here, but it seems like things are really heating up. Now, in terms of the last thing, the SEC put in a filing yesterday, and I'm just going to go over this really quickly. I need to take a closer look at this, but once again, they are refusing to answer any of Ripple's questions. They are refusing to admit Bill Hinman is Bill Hinman. They're refusing to admit Bitcoin is Bitcoin. They're pretty much refusing to answer a whole bunch of things that they were supposed to answer from Ripple. This, in no doubt, is going to piss off the court even further. I can't see this being anything good for the SEC. So far, this looks like one big denial to me, but if I see anything else interesting in here, I'll make sure to let you guys know. Guys, what is going on in this case right now is fascinating. The telephonic conference is next Tuesday. Make sure you tune in for that, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot more discussion leading up to that about everything that could possibly be taking place. For now, though, I hope you guys all have a good night, and for now, Mickle out.